Alright, let's get to work. So let's see here. First thing off the drying rack is we've got this Space Marine Devastator Veteran Sergeant. Master Sergeant. Call him what you will. Either way, I had to make a scratch-built signum on him so that this flag, which if I cover that for a second, you can see that flag very much pushes to the right side here, our right side looking at him. So makes room for having this box. And so you can do the unusual thing where you have a Space Marine Devastator Sergeant with a signum on his backpack, but he also has a flag. Very cool. So I'm gonna get back to work on him. Last thing we did was did some green stuff here on his bib. Don't know what else to call it. He's got this nice loincloth bib kind of thing. So, you know, there's some gaps there. I had to fill that up. So, having since filled that up and allowed it to dry for 48 hours, now I can start filing it up. Get that cleaned out, and then we can get them on a base. That's the hope tonight. And you can see some of that green stuff powder there coming off of my finger. That's great. That's exactly what we want. Yep, really easy to do these ripples in the cloth here, especially even with doing them with green stuff, because all you gotta do is just put your semicircular file into the trench here. Slowly rubbing the file along there, just slowly, very patiently getting it sort of the perfect shape I want. Nice and smooth. Yeah, it looks pretty gross up in there, doesn't it? Yeah. Now the nice thing is, this model is going to have some grenades and packs and other things along here, the side of his, I guess it's not really a utility belt, but that's what we're going to do with it. But so, that's relevant because of this hard angle right here, where that would look kind of weird, right? Where like the bib just kind of comes up and it stops. Well, that's okay, because we're going to put like a grenade or something right there in the future. So you won't see it. And it'll look great. And you can kind of see there how we're getting that nice moving on to a little bit of sandpaper here. That's kind of a crappy piece of sandpaper. I mean, they're all kind of crappy, so oh well. But usually I like to do the files for a real rough kind of sanding, and then I go down to this, I don't know, medium grit sandpaper. Get a little bit better of a surface finish. Especially as we're getting closer to the final shape here, I think, of everything we want on that. course, another trick here is this Games Workshop Greenstuff, liquid green stuff, this stuff. Having dried for 48 hours, by the way, because that stuff, I'm going to let it really get hard. It has such a poor mechanical strength that it just doesn't handle very well when you put steel tools to it or sandpaper, and you might accidentally press a little too hard and it'll just pull a whole chunk away. That's not what I want. So perhaps you guys have noticed we got magnets on this bad boy. Both sides, actually. Kind of a newer thing I've been working on, but in case you're curious, here's this other pieces we got here. And they're magnet because, hey, in 6 months, 3 months, whatever, Games Workshop's going to change what weapons are good. And it'd be like, oh, well, I made the model with the wrong thing, so I can change it in the future. But right now, the correct answer is a Thunderhammer and a Combi Plasma. Plus, it's kind of cool. You can kind of pose them. In the future, I want to put different weapons on him. I don't really have one available. Maybe something like that. I can just kind of stick that on there. It's kind of nice. That's for somebody else. So, we're getting kind of further along here, getting to the point where I can kind of grab a toothpick here and just kind of feel, right? I just want to kind of feel, is there anything sticking up? Because it might look one way, but, after this gets covered in black spray paint, and all you see is just the texture and nothing else, you might realize there might be some burrs sticking out or something sticking up, and it just won't look right. So let's get that nice and sanded down. Might be able to see it. There's a little bit of white poking through there. That's actually because I put a little chunk of plastic card down in there. And then I put the green stuff on top of it. Again, because green stuff has poor mechanical properties. So when you're trying to gap fill in a big enough gap, just put some plastic card down in there. It's ABS plastic. It's a lot stronger than the green stuff. Now the reason I don't have this guy glued to a base yet, which is kind of a little unusual for a construction technique, is I need to take my semi-spherical file here. It's a semi-sphere. I don't know if you guys can see that, but if you look at it, it's like cross-section head-on. You can kind of see it. It's flat on one side, semi-spherical on the other. It's a great file. Been using it for years. Really good shape. The reason I didn't put this guy on a base is so that I can put the file right in the guide here, I guess, this existing crease on the Games Workshop plastic. And then going up into the green stuff part, which I made, I can just kind of follow. Yep, 10 minutes on one small part of a model. That's That's Warhammer. That's how it goes. Just kind of doing a general sand over that area. Notice I have a style where I just kind of like to round everything off. Which, you know, usually works great, but maybe if I work on some Tau pieces here in a little bit, it might look a little weird because Tau have all kinds of hard angles, hard right angles specifically on their stuff. So if you round it off, it doesn't quite look right. But I do it anyway. Ooh, yeah, you see a little crack there. Point to it here. See a little, like, kind of little crack. That's something I know was under there. The green stuff has failed, or I sanded it too hard, whatever. So I'm gonna take a circular file now, and we're gonna see if we can't just eat away a little bit of the plastic and everything else, and just make that gap just optical illusion style. Just kind of, let's see if we can make it not exist anymore. Yeah, still there a little bit. Yep. I just try to remember how cool and unique this guy is going to look, just by putting all the time into him. Which is what I do basically for all these pieces. I mean, he's not really special in that regard. Or this piece, I should say. I guess I shouldn't anthropomorphize it more than it is due. So I kind of get it off of his knee there a little bit. So obviously, you know, in the future, when I go to paint this model, as an Ultramarines player, of course, the armor is going to be painted blue, and this bib is going to be old paint, probably a bleached bone, but basically a light tan. So if there's a little bit more of a gap here, a trench, it'll make life a lot easier for whoever has to paint this, which is going to be me. Okay. Yeah, I know. 15 minutes. It's really you gotta want it. You gotta be hungry. Alright, I'm actually gonna use a heavier sandpaper on that part. Of course, the best part about this heavier sandpaper is that the paper itself still has strength, so it holds its shape. It's not a wet dog here like this other sandpaper, but this stuff eats. It's very gritty. This will eat at anything it touches. So you gotta be really careful. kind of see that gap there a little bit, right? And there's just a little nick. Now, if I was a more patient person, I'd put green stuff in it, let it dry for 48 hours, and then go back and sand it again. But I really want to avoid that. So, I get some green stuff there up on his torso. I just want to clean that off while I'm thinking about it. Sand that down a little bit. Okay. Yeah. The decision has generally been made, unless if something absolutely terrible happens. I just really want to get him glued to a base tonight. I've been working on him literally for months. I mean, hell, this scratch-built Signum, I mean, that, oh god, when did I start this thing? Maybe like September, October maybe? In the background, you know, I mean, I got all kinds of stuff going on here in the workshop, so it's not like, you know, I've been doing that 60 hours a week every week, but it takes a while to build a scratch piece like that. Alright. Yeah, so I'm trying to get that corner burr out of there that we were talking about. It's just another good gap filler, everybody. Something to consider. It's actually super glue. Yeah, it's plain old. So I'm saying this right, but the cyanoacrylate, great glue. It's just whatever. You get it at Walmart, you get it wherever. It's ubiquitous, it's cheap, it's universal. You let that dry for 24 hours, completely dry, and then you can kind of sculpt it like anything. And it has better mechanical strength than green stuff. But sometimes I just use the green stuff. Alright, let's see if we can get a little bit of that under the chain there. Alright. Yeah, it's real close, but you can still feel that that's just like not the level of smoothness you would expect. Level of smoothness you would expect from like the side of a cloth. You wouldn't, you know, I mean, think about the sculpting here. You wouldn't expect for there to all of a sudden be just a little nick of cloth missing on the side of your, I don't know, ceremonial loincloth or bib, whatever we got going on here. The general aesthetic of Warhammer 40,000, but I like it. Sometimes I make Marines, they look all kitted out with all the purity seals and cloths and bibs and whatever, and sometimes I don't. On this model, he gets a bib. That's the deal. I'm just kind of stuffing the sandpaper, and it's the medium grit sandpaper. I'm just kind of stuffing it in there, just making sure just everything's getting kind of generally touched, rounded out. trusty dust brush. I'm just getting the dust out of the way. Alright, here, let's give you guys a quick blow up here. You can just kind of see what we've been working on. So, yeah, it looks kind of gross, doesn't it? But it feels okay. And of course, one of these things I've learned about working on Warhammer miniatures all this time is confidence. You know, you got to really be confident in your process, and confident that, you know, hey, that might look like crap, but it doesn't feel like crap, right? As I run my toothpick along here. And that's perfect, because that's just going to get, just going to get spray painted black. And what's more important is after it's spray painted black, it'll look smooth. It'll feel smooth. That's why I've been spending so much time sanding that out. And when you kind of build stuff like that, it's gap, you know, bigger gap filling like that. I mean, this is one of the more complex gap filling projects I have done in a while. Usually it's just something simple like, let me see if there's an example here. Yeah, like here, like these lines. You can see some of the green in there. And we run, you know, this is all plastic card right here. I mean, each facade is an angle here is a different piece. Yeah, you run your toothpick over that. I know you guys can't feel that, but I can. You run your toothpick over that, is completely smooth. Which is what we want, because we're going to spray paint that black, and we're going to paint it blue. And you're not going to want to see little gaps, little lines on your signum for your sergeant. It needs to look smooth. It's this big blue piece of adamantium box, and it's strong, and that's how that goes. So anyway, that's just the left side of the bib. Gotta do a little bit on the right side here, but not as much. So let's just real quick. See, a little bit of that flaked off there. I don't know if that camera picked that up, but it's fine. It was on an area I don't want it to be, but that's how weak green stuff is. Poke it with a piece of steel, a whole chunk of it might come off. So that's why when in doubt, I usually like to get to the sandpaper sooner rather than later. It's a little bit more forgiving than steel tools. I really wish I knew where the sandpaper came from, so I could have more of it. But I don't know where I got this from. Of course. Well, anyway. Yeah, so that's looking pretty good. See how we got that kind of, it just kind of morphs up into his leg there. Get a little bit of that off the leg. I don't have imagery of what that looked like before, but you can imagine if you have this big wide bib going up, and then all of a sudden there's just like a missing, like, triangular cut right over here, kind of where the white is roughly, like, that just wouldn't look right. It just wouldn't make sense. So that had to be gap filled. Had to be. Yeah. Almost done with this. Alright, so one other thing here, I think maybe I said it earlier, is how, well, you know, we're putting a lot of time into this one little facet of this one little model. I think it's important, you know, especially in a miniatures game. I mean, every model's got to be like a little character in their own way, right? Like, it can't just be, here's 20 dudes holding bolters and they look boring and they're all posed the same. And no. Every model needs to look unique, needs to look cool in some way, you know? Obviously a Sergeant model. So real quick, just you guys might want to see, oh, here you go. Just randomly, we're not working on him today, but you know, he's just a cool miniature I did a while ago. Doesn't have his decals yet, so I guess he's not technically an ultramarine, but you know, we got this black guy, he's got a multi-melta, and he's got a searchlight on his backpack. You know, it's lined up pretty well with the gun, and he's got the little thing on his eye. Maybe wherever he turns his head, the searchlight follows him. I don't know, just little bits like that make your army look interesting, make it look different. Alright, so enough from him. That's what we're going for with every single model. Alright, sorry I just dropped the next project that we're going to be working on. I had to go retrieve it. And you can see I got a little extra glue in this little pit right here. You can kind of pick up the gloss on it there. So I just want to kind of lightly just kind of hollow out in there just a little bit. Just make sure, especially on the sides, you know, these little angles. It's glue, it's liquid. Liquids like to make weird curvy kind of ramps when they encounter right angles. But as a painter, I kind of want these really sharp angles. And I mean like how this, you have this kind of comes down and it drops, right? That's that hard angle I'm talking about. We don't want that to have to be smoothed out by glue, because then that'll make painting harder, because I want to paint that black, I want to paint that blue. If I can have a natural geometry kind of help make the painting easier, then I very much prefer that. So tedious, yes. So make sure we're all happy here, because I think we're gonna shut this down. Okay. Yeah, this one I just clean that a little bit more slightly. And that piece of plastic card I stuck in there, that was just a small piece of scrap. I think it was maybe from 0.5 millimeter sheet, 0.5 millimeter thick plastic card. Yeah, I have a little baggie here actually with you know, just scrap plastic card. A lot of it's actually 1 millimeter thickness. Some of it's half. So no sense in using some of the, you know, virgin material off the sheet when I can just grab basically a piece of trash and stick it in there. feel that with my fingernail still. Yeah, let's do a little more there. Yeah, and that's another thing with Warhammer. Like, or hobbying in general, really, don't be afraid to go back and have to work on something like 5 times. I mean, I see people, especially when we talk about painting, coats of paint, especially like a lighter color. I think I was talking to my buddy at the bar the other day about painting yellow. He was complaining about it, and he was like, oh, you just have to paint so many coats. And it's like, yep, that's what you have to do. You want to paint a really, if you want to paint a really good yellow on something that's like prime black, for example, it's probably going to take like 7 or 8 coats. Make sure everyone's thin. Every coat's thin. You don't want to lose detail. That's just the level of patience that it takes. If you want it to look good, of course. But of course, the real answer is to start with yellow spray paint. And then you'll probably only have to do like 3 coats of paint. But, yeah, let's get way up there. So I actually glued this little chain. He said he's got this like chain, the Terminator Honors kind of thing. So I actually glued and kind of bent both sides of the chain, glued it up onto his belt, but it has come undone on this side, which is okay. So we'll just add a little bit of glue to that later. I just want to get that part of the bib under it. Yeah, going on 33 minutes here. Still, yeah. Costly, isn't it? Oops. I think we're getting really close to being finished here. Really close. Hey, right there, right there. There's just a little bit of kind of a weird angle that's unbecoming of cloth. And the only other thing I'm thinking while I'm here, this chain having come loose. Yeah, can't have that. I don't like loose moving kind of bits, so we're just gonna, now that this has all been cleaned off, and in my opinion, we're done with the bib part. We're all done with it. So now, get my tools ready, got my pin right there. I'm going to put just a little dot of glue. We're actually going to use gravity to help us get the glue where we want it. Yeah, ooh, that's actually too much, but okay. Then we're going to grab our pin, and we're just going to push down on the chain a little bit, right there. And try to tilt it backwards for gravity. Sorry, you can't really see what I'm doing here, but I'm basically just holding that down a little bit with the steel pen. Yeah, just holding that down. We'll hold that for about, another 15 seconds or so. maybe take our little stick here and maybe we can push away a little bit of the extra glue, wipe it on the paper. Yeah. Now, putting a little bit of glue on there, we will actually have to probably come back and sand that a little bit within 24 hours. But that's something we can do later, and preferably after he's attached to his base, which is what we're going to do right now. So we're going to sweep it off, because we want to make sure we're not gluing to any dusty surfaces, because that would make the glue have an inferior stick. Alright, now this base has already been sculpted a little bit. I've already kind of ran the sandpaper on the outside, you know, get a nice smooth looking pedestal, right? So standard 25mm base. Yes, I still use the older, smaller ones because that's how my collection's set up. I want it all to match. Plus, if I ever go into a time machine back to 2006 and I just happen to have my all my modern Warhammer pieces with me, I can still play. Not that that's realistic, but alright, I'm going to move this over a little bit, have a little cleaner area. Here's our base. We got our guy. Maybe you can't see it as well as I can, but basically I'm going to get my head like right over the piece. And so make sure we want to try to get the model as close to the standing over the base as possible. You know, we don't want them like... You don't want to do your model like standing way back or way forward or way off to the side or whatever. And obviously, I mean, this guy, he's got this huge thing sticking out, whatever. So we do our best, but that just kind of gives an idea of where we're going to put him on the base. And then, somewhere around here I have a pencil. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to get my head over him, looking straight down on him one last time. And I'm just going to put some pencil marks right on the front of his feet. And then maybe I'll draw like an arrow or something so that I can see which way is the front. Front towards enemy, right? Yeah, that's good. Alright. So, notice there's no glue there. That was what's called a dry fit. We're figuring out what we're going to do. And now we're going to do it. So, he's ready to rock. We're going to put glue all over his shoes. Quite a bit, actually, because this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, if there's a tiny amount extra and it pools, it's fine. That's why we're using liquid super glue, not gel super glue, because gel super glue would make it look like Mr. Space Marine here would be standing in molasses and it would mushroom up around the sides of his feet. But we don't do that. We use liquid glue here. Going off of those pencil marks on the front. Alright, he's stuck to his base now. I hope you like it. Now holding it at an angle and looking straight down. Yeah, that's good. His backpack's not really sticking out much on the back. There's a little bit of space on the front. Maybe not as much as I'd like. It's actually almost too much space on the back. Or maybe it just looks weird because he has a bib that's like sticking out. It's kind of coming out at an angle, so... Alright. Let's put his arms on here, just to make sure that this is all adding up, because, you know, that glue is only getting harder. If we gotta rip him off and change it, I gotta know now. So there we go, we got a guy with a hammer and a thing. He's looking pretty good, I think. Yeah. even looking straight down, even with all of his gear, I mean, like, even on a 25mm base, and even with that signum sticking off, it's like, that doesn't look too bad. It's not egregious. Alright, so now, like I was saying, glue takes 24 hours to dry, so we glued them to a base. We're happy with it, which I don't know if I'm happy with it, honestly. Kinda looks like he might be leaning back a little bit, you know, like he's just kinda... Maybe, let me try holding it off camera here for a second. Another thing you guys can do, if you're not quite sure if something looks right, is you can take like a piece, you know, a known flat thing, fairly rigid, so like this triangular ruler kind of thing. So I can't show you this, I'm actually going to put him on here. I'm going to hold it up at eye level and just kind of rotate him around, just make sure everything looks good. Yeah, I'm such a perfectionist, I guess. I'm still looking at him like, well, is it fine? It's kind of hard to tell, right? 'Cause without arms, or I guess with arms, they're all over the... I mean, they could be pointing any which way. He could be doing this, he could be doing this. I mean, there you go. Maybe you guys like that, huh? Yeah. Just, Alright, you know what? Fuck it. Maybe he's leaning back ever so slightly. Just ever so slightly. He's leaning it back. He's leaning back. He's taking it all. He's taking the battlefield and all. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty good. I'm just ridiculous. As you guys have seen, 40 minutes on his bib. Yep. Alright, so having done that, notice I don't even erase the pencil lines yet. We're not going to touch any of that. We're going to take this, we're going to put him on the drying rack for 24 hours, which is over there. You can't see it. But that's it. We're not touching him again for a day. But tomorrow, we can get back to work on him. So now the next thing on the agenda is this Armorium Cherub, this floating little cyborg baby carrying a anti-tank explosive melt-a-bomb. Again, more gap filling. This one will be faster, so we got some sandpaper. I had to do the gap on his arm. Now this is something where gap filling is absolutely critical, because it's like biological flesh of a sculpt, right? I mean, obviously it's plastic, but you know, it's what we're sculpting here is biological flesh. And if you ever look at people outside, you'll notice there aren't mold lines in between, you know, people's body parts. That's not how it works. So it can't look like that on a model. So that's why the gap between the baby's shoulder and the baby's arm needs to be absolutely seamless. There cannot be any crack whatsoever. And so Games Workshop's liquid green stuff comes into play. We fill that gap, give it 48 hours to dry, or maybe it's 24, who knows. Either way. And then we're going to sandpaper it. Alright, now we're going to check it. We're just going to rub that back over the gap, where we know the gap is, but there is no gap. Hooray. A little bit more of an couple angles here. I just want to kind of hit a little bit more, just a pinch. Oh god, sorry about that, guys. I'm still trying to learn how to use this camera. Figure it out here. Sometimes sandpaper is just so floppy, I just have to have something a little bit more firm, like a piece of steel here. Of course, I have this even finer sandpaper. I mean, God, look at this sorry little thing. There we go. This is an even finer sandpaper. I like to kind of end with this usually. Just kind of rubbing the sandpaper around on all the angles around that area. Yeah, pretty gentle. Like I said, Greenstuff's soft. It doesn't take much to sand it away compared to the plastic. I gotta tell you guys though, I'm actually rather excited about this idea of painting a cybernetic baby. Like, that's kind of cool. I haven't done that. See, back when I bought the Devastator kit back in like 2007 or whatnot, it didn't come with an Armorium Cherub. This is actually kind of a newer piece here from Games Workshop. Yeah, that didn't take a half hour like the bib, right? Maybe I should just do a video on that to show you guys how to do it. And yep. Yeah, I'm running that. You can hardly see it. Here, let me blow it up here. You can hardly see that little crack here, and even though you can see it now, I'm rubbing this toothpick over it. It's not even there, that gap, which is perfect. So when we go to paint, you won't see a weird gap there, because you shouldn't see a weird gap there. Not on something, a sculpt is something that's biological. So, that's done. Put that to the side. We'll put him back in his bucket. Yeah, I like to do these little buckets to kind of keep all the little pieces for projects together. So this bucket is actually really simple. We got his base, just sanded and ready to go, gap filled. Got his little wings with some cybernetic tendrils. That's already been cleaned. And when I say cleaned, I mean it's like I've already, you know, sanded all the flash off of it and all that other crap. So that's all there. And now him. Now I'm thinking the next step would be gluing the baby's little angel wings, little cherub here. And I think we're going to be gluing the little baby wings on here right now, because it's all ready to go. And it looks like those little tendrils actually go into the base of the baby's skull. So, there's actually two little spots we have to glue. Alright, so a little bit of glue there, and then we're just going to put a little bit of glue in the back of the baby's head. Alright, let's make sure we're touching both Oh, yeah, you can see that little spot of glue there. It looks like I accidentally shot a little too far up on that. That's okay. So because of that, we're going to have to... You know, that's such a tiny little area there that I'm actually going to put a little bit of glue just on the toothpick. Yep, just a tiny amount of glue there. And then we're going to take that, just kind of see if we can't let gravity kind of get some of that glue down in there. And then I don't know why I grabbed a tack for this, but whatever. I'm just going to just push that. Oh gosh, there we go. I'm just going to push that little tendril wire thing into the back there. Let the glue take care of the rest. There, so y'all can see what I'm talking about. There we go. Just going to push that. Just make sure we put a little bit of pressure there. Alright, now, having glued that, the next thing we need to do is make sure that we put the piece on right. Like it doesn't look weird. Of course, it's a baby with wings, an iron halo, and a scouter. Some other items. And he's carrying a bomb, so yeah, everything looks weird here, but let's see. Very nice. And what the hell, that's going so well. We might even just do the same deal here, right? I'll put my head right over the model. Another 25mm base again, right? I just want to line them up. Get my trusty pencil here. There we go, front towards enemy. Yep. Alright, and that is how you do that. So now we have a little baby carrying a bomb. Flying on a base. Yep. Nice little token piece. That's the reason why I made it, despite having alternatives for my Armorium Cherubs. It's now nice that I actually have a real one. Again, I just really want to paint it. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm actually going to do dark skin tone on it, because I feel like everybody else just does the GW standard and they just paint a white kid. I'm going to try painting him like a black kid, just to be different. But that's later. This is building, not painting. So, he goes on the drying rack, not to be touched for 24 hours. Oh, man. What do you guys want to see me work on next, I wonder? You know, that was pretty boring there, I gotta say, doing nothing but gap filling and painting and whatnot. Or not painting. I wish I was painting. Maybe we'll do that next, huh? Actually, well, you know, now that baby no longer has any pieces, I guess this work cube is done. Take it out of the rotation. Put a piece of scrap paper down here, some of you might recognize. Get some green stuff out, and a toothpick. That might drive people nuts, but you're about to see something crazy. We're going to take two other pieces here. We got some Tau items. We got this, well, what would you call this? This is a 3 pulse rifle barrels glued onto like two plastic card things to kind of go into this like triangular, triple-barreled item. Where is it? Here we go. This is on the drying rack, but this is the housing for that weapon. It's coming together, but just so you guys see what it's going to be, it's going to eventually be something like this, right? Something like that. But we're not there yet. But what is going on is these little green parts. There was just some rather bad looking cracks along there. So, very simple gap filling. We're just gonna take some green stuff and just, you know, as you can see, I've already done a little bit of it, but you know, with most things, you kind of need to do a couple coats. Yeah, but I don't want to get it into that crack, so wipe that out. Alright, so we got one, here's the second one, and then third one, so, alright, let's set that up to dry over here. This weapon, come on camera. Alright. This weapon. Been working on this one for a long time too. I don't know, 3 Tau plasma rifles glued together in a triple barrel thing. I figured, you know, that would be kind of a cool looking weapon. It's unique. Been working on and off and on for a couple years. I just glued these 3 pieces. These have been together for a long time, these 3 barrels, and then this whole block has been together for a while. I just glued the barrel assembly and the housing assembly together. And so, upon gluing that, you know, there's some gaps down here. So, they're about filled up now, but I want to do just one more coat of green stuff. And this is going to be some good closure here because a couple days from now, these models are going to get the same treatment that the Devastator Sergeant with the bib received. Of course, after this stuff dries for 48 hours. All right. There's the pinch right there. I mean, I don't know. This is like maybe like the 5th coat of green stuff on this. You know, just kind of, you know, off and on throughout the afternoon. You know, I've been out in and out of here all day, doing errands, going to the park, whatever. So it's green stuff. You know, usually takes about a day to really get it on there. I think that's going to be good. And so I'm going to put it vertically like that in my drying rack for 48 hours, and then, you know, 2 days from now, the green stuff's totally dry. It's ready to get sanded. So I'm going to put it in the drying rack for real. Alright, well, that was about an hour on the nose of just generic workshop work. Nothing really in specific, just another day. Of course, I could keep going. We can work on this character here. We got a Tau Pathfinder with a rail rifle, except the legs are from the old Fire Warrior box. I just sanded the I just sanded the armor plates off, but I kept the knee pads because, I don't know. And the torso, you can see it, is a Catachan. Works great with Tau, because now I can have this Tau dude with some nice pecs, wearing a tank top and a jacket, holding this rail rifle, you know, with this flip-down scope system. And my favorite part about this project, I haven't finished it yet, but personally, I like to go backpacking. So I actually made a little backpack for him, like a backpacking backpack. Like, he's going camping with his rail rifle. Look at that. So you can kind of, you know, he's got the sleeve, he's got the bedroll, he's got his canteen, his knife, and all that stuff. So eventually, he's going to be like that. And he's going to be like, you know, some crazy militiaman out in the foothills of Ohio with his rail rifle. Good for him. But we're not there yet, because clearly he's missing his other arm. And this arm, well, ugh, look what I had to do to get that gap filled onto there. Especially with that weird pose, you know, kind of like he's just like standing relaxed, holding his rifle like that. I'm not going to work on that now, but I need to take this arm, which, as you can see here, that doesn't work at all. It's not even close. Right? We need to make his arm longer because he needs to be reaching down here and like holding the bottom half of the weapon. Now if we do that, you can see that, well, maybe you can't see here, but his arm's not quite long enough. Just the shoulder doesn't connect and all that. So the solution is somewhere, probably right around there. We're going to cut his forearm off. And then we're going to have to add some crap in there to make it a little bit longer. And then we're going to have to sand it down and try some optical illusion stuff to make it not look like he's got weird lemur arms. But we'll save that for another day. I think the next thing we'll do is painting. So that'll probably be a lot more exciting for everyone to see. So, till next time, that's been the workshop.